So today we're going to be reacting to why the boy band hiatus doesn't apply to BTS by Boris City magazine. Now I'm very eager to get into this one because I've had a load of you guys saying that you wanted to see me do some reactions to the Boris City music magazine channel, who is an amazing BTS channel. And this was one of the videos that kind of like when I went over to the channel and I had a look at stuff to react to, one that really stood out to me because I find that first of all the fascinating thumbnail with the comparisons to One Direction, one of the biggest Western, boy bands of all time. I find that fascinating, and I think this will make a really good analysis video as well. And from what I've heard of Boris City, it's going to be an amazing video. So yeah, this is going to be a good one. Guys, let me know, what do you think of these videos? Do you have a favorite video kind of like this that you'd like to see me react to as well? Let me know down in the comments below. And also, if you haven't already, make sure that you go subscribe to her channel, because the amount of hard work that goes into making videos like this, it can't be understated. And honestly, it needs all the support it needs. So go and subscribe. Also, if I sound a tiny bit ill, I'm sorry, I'm getting over an illness, so it is what it is. And as always, guys, you want to see all of the videos here on this channel weeks before they hit YouTube, completely unedited info. I do have a Patreon, the link to that is down in the description below. You can see all the live performances, full album reactions, variety content, K-drama reactions, and more. The link to that is down below. But guys, like I said, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and let's go.
In 2015, One Direction, the biggest boy band at the time, announced that saying one of its 5 members was leaving the group.
Man, I remember I used to work at the O2 Arena,
who is able to relax
and I worked
private time out
on some of their tours. And
Zayn also said, "I know I have 4 friends for life in Louis, Liam, Harry, and Niall. I know they will continue to be the best band in the world." But what happened next was the complete opposite. Zayn did not continue a normal life. Instead, he debuted as a soloist.
And they never got back together.
One Direction, now a 4-member group, continued their planned tour without Zayn, released their promised follow-up album, and announced that they were going on an indefinite hiatus.
You're taking a year-long break.
Would you a year off? You're not going to be like years and years though. No. Let's give it 18 months.
It's been more than 8 years since One Direction's hiatus, time in which the members have revealed how they really
Understandable,
feel
man. They had their lives
group.
finally.
For Liam, the One Direction members were more co-workers than actual friends.
You know, the day the band ended, I was like, thank Lord for that. And I know a lot of people are going to be mad at me for saying that, but I needed to stop or it would kill me.
Zayn said that he actually left the group because he was unhappy with the
group's
musical direction and his inability to
being in the limelight when you're so young.
That One Direction's music was generic. After Zayn left, he had public arguments with Louis on Twitter, and recently Louis revealed that he really thought their hiatus was going to last a year or 2.
I think it's funny, it wasn't just that it was generic, they said generic as fuck. I mean, that's crazy, because what that kind of tells you is that they were happy at the time to put that out, and they finally put an end to it, in his opinion anyway. So it kind of goes to show you that, like, eventually, even all the money and the success, eventually, even if you're doing great, you're gonna have enough at some point. Also, of course, it's super sad seeing moments of Liam Payne, considering. So, all respects for this one.
Recently, Louis revealed that he really thought their hiatus was going to last a year or 2, and that's why he took the longest.
It kind of shows you they were all at different points.
In recent years, the tension between the members has cooled down a lot. They now seem to be more respectful towards one another, but the idea of a reunion seems highly unlikely, since they've confessed that they don't really talk to each other anymore, and they are all very focused.
Plus, Harry's like a megastar now.
But this whole indefinite hiatus lie has left some kind of trauma on fandoms and pop culture. Although it's hard to admit it, One Direction is not on an indefinite hiatus. They actually disbanded in 2016.
Agreed.
This is why when the current biggest band, BTS, announced that they were going on a temporary rest from group activities, many who don't really know BTS's story instantly assumed that history was going to repeat itself. Many said that BTS is going on the quote-unquote hiatus that One Direction went through, and that they are not actually coming back. And whenever a BTS fan says that BTS is actually coming back because they said they will, many respond this exact same phrase. That was what One Direction said.
That's the thing, you're talking about different cultures, just things and people with, an experience and history that's different, I'll be honest, when I first started, getting into like Korean acts, I didn't know about military service. It's just one of those things where like it's new, so you hear hiatus because that's what the press puts out, and that's just immediately what comes to mind. Of course, we see with like rock bands, hiatus bands come back, but a lot of the time you think it's because of the money or whatever. Like we look at Oasis and stuff. I think it's the assumption by I don't know whether it's the assumption by the people in the West or the fact that it is pushed to seem that way by the press, you know?
Direction is still on it.
Yeah, exactly. You know what indefinite hiatus means?
Reminds me of One Direction. P.S. They never did get back together.
But BTS's story as a group and as individual artists, as well as the inevitable circumstances and reasons as to why the BTS members are on arrest, are completely different to One
100%.
Direction. And this frantic reaction by the media and the general
you don't have
public
members
say
saying
a
that their
lot
music
about
is
how One
generic.
Direction destroyed the true meaning of hiatus by pretending to be friends and giving false hopes to millions of young fans. On the other hand, there is multiple evidence that can convince even the biggest skeptic that a BTS comeback will happen. There is even a contract and an approximate date of when this will happen, and it's not too far away.
See, this is the thing. It's culture difference. I'm guaranteeing you that, well, I'm hoping that she's going to kind of dig deeper into that because, you know, in the West, we're just not used to that.
Probably the biggest mistake of Western media and the general public is treating BTS as a Western act who follow the Western rules of music and pop culture. Because in Korea, if a music label and the members of a group say hiatus, it actually means hiatus. This is especially true because hiatus are not very common in K-pop, but disbandments are. So music labels and groups don't really
Yeah, and I
have the
think the
need
term
to give
hiatus
false
gets
hopes
thrown
to
around
fans
in the
because
West
every year,
willy-nilly too.
dozens of groups disband and dozens of groups debut. And it's common for the performers part of a disbanded K-pop group to re-debut either as a soloist or as part of another group. Disbandment
okay.
is not a word that groups avoid. However, it's true that BTS is different from these K-pop groups because they are some of the biggest artists on the planet, and their disbandment or hiatus would be news around the world as a negative thing.
100%.
And that was what happened.
BTS are going on hiatus.
The boys of BTS are headed in different directions.
BTS just announced they're going on a hiatus to focus on their solo careers.
I don't know.
Oh, see, I don't like the way that was said. That's not
just
true.
revealed some major news, and it's not smooth like butter.
Like, maybe it's time to move on. The K-pop supergroup broke hearts around the world, announcing they're going to take some time to focus on solo projects.
See, I don't think
Management says
real
it's not
armies
a hiatus.
felt that, you
Sounds
know.
like it. I mean, I guess all good things must come to an end, right?
So to translate the idea, tainted by One Direction, BTS and their label had to go out of their ways to reassure global fans and the general public that their rest from group activities actually means rest from group activities. There are many reasons why BTS's and One Direction's hiatus are different, but here's one. For One Direction, it was a decision. For BTS, it was unavoidable. Whether the
Right.
BTS members wanted it or not, it's mandatory for every Korean man to enlist in the military for 18 months. So BTS planned to announce in 2020 that they were about to serve their mandatory military service and going into a 2-year rest in very careful ways.
Now, am I right in thinking that it still was their choice to do the military service because they were given they were offered an exemption? I'm not entirely, I'm not sure if that's the case. I mean, I could be wrong here. I'm not entirely sure if I've got that mix. I know that Hyungmin Son did do a military thing, but he was like an exemption because of his, you know, like his achievements and his, the things that he did for South Korea on the national scale. But regardless, the fact is like the fact that the media wasn't portraying that or like saying that as well when they knew it. They knew that that was the reason, but they weren't saying it. It's just kind of weird.
Hiatus stigma that One Direction left in fandoms was too big to simply say that they were going on a hiatus, because no one would actually believe their words. This is why BTS prepared a lot of special content in 2019 and 2020 to promise their fandom army and the media that a comeback after their enlistment will happen, including promoting their album Map of the Soul 7 as their biggest and closing project of their first chapter as
Yeah,
BTS.
that's a huge point.
Many songs from this album were past BTS songs reimagined. They plan to promote this album with a massive global tour. They also said goodbye to 2019 by revisiting their old eras and performing
That's so
their old
awesome.
songs in award shows. They also plan to release their Korean anthology album Proof and their Japanese anthology album The Best as projects that mark the first of many chapters. And they also said that BTS's chapter 2 was about to start.
We believe that this
It's so exciting at the same time, you know, especially now that
that
some of the boys have started coming back home now.
Projects. What can actually convince even the biggest skeptic that they will come back is their brand new 7-year contract to continue being part of BTS under their label Big Hit Music. They also planned and did end up releasing statements on how important and meaningful it was for them to re-sign with their label for 7 more years. This could
that's
work
huge,
as a
man. And that's the stuff that
fans,
the press just wasn't mentioning.
That they will come back. It's not just their word. They literally have a contract to prove it. But the BTS law happened, burying the news of the BTS contract renewal.
BTS가 청년층들을 대표하고 있고 또 청년층들로부터 아주 널리 공감을 받고 있기 때문에
Jin is currently in the military and the other members are scheduled to go in the next 12 months.
From K-pop supergroup BTS, Jin, the eldest member, has enlisted in the South Korean army because Korean men are required to enlist in the military by age 28.
But everything that is happening right now was supposed to happen in 2020.
Right, yeah,
the
but we had
announcement of a
COVID,
temporary
right?
rest from group activities and their military enlistment was supposed to start at the end of 2020, not at the end of 2022. But all of these plans were shattered because of COVID-19, which canceled all their concerts around the world and the big promotions they had planned for their last album of Chapter 1. It seemed like this could have been a bittersweet see you later, because although they had a new BTS contract, all their big plans were cancelled. But what many were not expecting was that the government was about to release a new law that lets global artists like BTS to serve their
okay, so this is what I might have been getting confused about.
30 instead of age 28. This new law was nicknamed the BTS law because they are the only ones who meet the challenging criteria. Thanks to this law, BTS didn't have to go to the military for 2 more years. During this time, BTS released a pandemic album, a trilogy of English songs, collaborations,
and honestly, you could probably say that those 2 years were some of the biggest for BTS in terms of their global success as well. So
they
that was
also
huge.
had their Permission to Dance tour. After all of this, BTS announced that they were taking a rest from group activities because they are going to the military. But 2 years after the announcement of the renewed 7-year contract passed, and the general public is not aware that it exists. This is how the confusion started. This is why many think they are not coming back, despite there being a contract that says they will.
See, the thing is, I still think that the contract situation would have like leaked or it would have been known. It kind of just feels like the Western coverage of it just felt incredibly lazy or sensationalist. And I understand what they would do because I assume, you know, any kind of news about BTS or, you know, big tabloids is going to just create clicks and people are going to buy newspapers and whatnot because it's BTS. Nothing drives attention like it. But also what kind of fascinates me is the fact that they still ran that, and surely ARMY was telling them in their thousands, tens of thousands, hitting back at these stories, this is incorrect, this is not true, blah, 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 and they chose to ignore it. That's the part that I'm like, whoa.
The members said that they renegotiated their new BTS contract, and they consulted these new terms with their parents and big hit executives. This is why their current solo projects are still considered BTS projects. For example, all the members have their own personal Instagram accounts, but their label doesn't manage these accounts. Their management only has access to BTS's group.
Right, that's interesting to know. I did not know that.
Individual promotions, although they are considered solo projects, are still published on BTS's YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and other social media platforms. Whenever they have collaborations, it's always attributed to a member of BTS. If it's Jimin, it's Jimin of BTS. If it's Suga, it's Suga of BTS. If it's Jungkook, it's Jungkook of BTS.
I go by the name of RM of BTS. I'm J-Hope from BTS.
안녕하세요, BTS입니다.
The members are also considered solo artists on the streaming platforms, but if you go to their physical album's credit page, it still says
see, I love this. I'm learning so much. Veracity's magazine's channel is unbelievable, man.
This is not what happened with One Direction. With One Direction,
someone get this lovely lady a job in journalism doing something, you know,
as soloists. So you will never see One Direction's official page promoting their solo albums, and you will never see a Harry Styles song song being promoted as a song by Harry of One Direction.
That's
because
true.
the members are now completely independent from each other. Their contract with One Direction and their label cycle ended on 2016. But with BTS's hiatus, a new BTS contract started. This is why it can be frustrating for ARMYs when the media or people who don't know anything about BTS or their
That's the
story in
most
music
frustrating
industry
part, isn't it?
instantly assume that BTS broke up.
And one of them
never
even said
came
to
back.
focus
BTS
on the
even gave
solo
an
stuff. It's
approximate
like,
date of when they're coming back, and the younger members are basically going to the military earlier than they should be, just so they can return as a group.
That's such a big valid point as well.
BTS have schedules as a group programmed for 2030, leaving the question to many.
Oh my god,
Are
they did a
being
time capsule?
exploited?
That's so
Do they
cool.
actually want to leave the group and become soloists like One Direction? Are they being forced to be part of BTS forever? The answer they've given multiple times is no, and they even give logical reasons as to why they are the ones making their own artistic decisions, business decisions, and other personal decisions. The general public doesn't really understand how honest the BTS members have been over the years and how hard their story in the music industry has been.
I think that's a super valid point because, you know, I'm baby army myself. You know, I'm still finding out stuff. I mean, damn it, I'm learning stuff today. But what I would say is, you know, it's just if you're not familiar with a group, I don't think you should ever assume things or like, you know, because there's nuance to everything, especially when you don't know the members or you're not too familiar with them. So to assume why they would want to do certain things or whatnot, it doesn't necessarily mean that, oh, we're doing solo music now, so it must mean that that's our priority. It doesn't necessarily mean that at all. And it's just, I think it's kind of weird to assume that. And I think that that's just a very Western mindset.
The general public doesn't really understand how honest the BTS members have been over the years and how hard their story in the music industry has been. Unlike One Direction, BTS speak about their experience as global artists. If they are burned out, they say they are.
저희가 되게 심적으로 많이 힘들었었어요. 저희끼리 얘기를 하면서 대체를 할까 말까 고민도 했고.
Wow, I mean, I've never seen that clip of Jin saying that, but that's so brutally honest that it's got to be commended as well. It shows you that, like, they're so honest in saying that. Yeah, One Direction, and this is no shade to One Direction, because you know, like I said, I did some work for One Direction before, and I personally, you know, thought their music was okay. But they even said themselves that the music they felt was generic, but they didn't say that. So they were kind of happy to just play along with BTS. Clearly, like, Jin's up there saying, like, I was tired. We thought about packing it in.
If they are disappointed by an experience in an American show, they talk about it. If they are sad their demos didn't work out, they say it.
그래서 저는 사실 좀 기대를 했어요. 혹시 내 목소리로 끝나지 않을까? 하지만 슈가 형이 목소리로 끝났다는 거.
If they felt
I like
they
the
were
honesty.
taken advantage of because of their fame, they call it out. One Direction, on the other hand, kept all of this to themselves. They were not open to talk about it when it happened. So when they broke up, they started venting non-stop about it. Another difference
That's
is
it,
how
man.
they
I don't
started.
like that.
BTS debuted with almost nothing, and they've shared this struggle for years. They were living together before and after they debuted, creating a family dynamic more than a work dynamic.
Yeah, One Direction was the
Direction,
show,
on the
right?
other hand, had almost no time to form true, long-lasting friendships. They were formed on a TV show, and a couple of months later, they were in America promoting their first single.
And another thing about One Direction is originally they did not come together, and even on the show that they were on, first of all, I don't even think they won it, but two, they didn't audition and come together as a group. They were individuals, and it was Nicole Scherzinger who literally said, why don't we make them a group? And one of them had auditioned as a solo artist beforehand and been kicked and you know, was rejected on the show. So initially they came into it for wanting to be solo artists, and then were kind of put together, didn't know each other. This is how it started. So it's really interesting that obviously BTS were put together, but that was the whole idea, was that they would be a group. It was always about being a group.
All of this is without counting the massive amount of racism that BTS received in America. People were screaming racist insults to their faces.
That's
on
crazy.
red carpets. All of these struggles, from starting from nothing to feeling like aliens in the industry,
we're like aliens to the music industry for America,
has made the BTS members want to fight the fight as a group, because as a group,
It
they
made
feel
them stronger, dude.
while the One Direction members feel trapped. But many non-fans
And
are
fighting against
still
each other, that's
skeptic.
wild.
And I think they are skeptic because they see BTS as a boy band like One Direction, or
Correct.
because they see BTS as an exploited K-pop group. And for those people, I hope this answers your doubts. It's public knowledge that the 7 BTS members have renegotiated their contracts. But even with their old contracts, the BTS members always had more power in making their own decisions than the majority majority of K-pop acts, and even with
that's
all of
huge,
those
yeah.
existing liberties, it's assumed that their new contract gives them even more liberties and power, and it can be assumed that their label accepted this compromise because BTS built that company basically from the ground.
That's the thing as well, like for them to renew their contracts, knowing that they are the major players, it tells you that this is genuinely what they wanted to do. They're not you can't force someone into re-signing a contract when they're out of their contract. They could have been like, we're the biggest group in the world, we do whatever we want, but we choose to do this, you know? So that whole West thing that, you know, the West was kind of like put on them, it's nonsense.
BTS made the small Korean independent label Big Hit Entertainment become Hive Corporation, which now owns multiple
wild,
labels.
isn't it?
So despite having offers from many Korean and American labels, BTS chose to stay on their once a small label because they are now looking for longevity as BTS, and this can only come by having full power in their artistic decisions and not exhausting themselves
100%,
by touring
which is the
non-stop
opposite of a
and releasing
hiatus,
one or
you
more
know?
albums every year. We don't know what this new BTS contract says,
In a
but
Western
by the way
sense,
the
anyway.
members talk about it, many assume that it gives them the freedom to slow down. So BTS having a schedules programmed for 2025 and 2030 does not mean that they are being exploited or they are overworking themselves.
Exactly.
They are actually getting closer to a healthier schedule. No more tours non-stop, no more 2 album releases a year, and no more crazy
See, I would love that for
exhaustion
them.
like their past schedules, because that was what killed One Direction, and BTS want to prevent that.
See, I would like to see, you know, like I don't get me wrong, as I'm new to K-pop, so I'm seeing, you know, the constant comebacks, you know, and I always thought a comeback was like, oh my god, this group that, or this band that, you know, haven't been around for 10 years are coming back. And when I'm like, no, they do comebacks like 3 times a year. I'm like, okay, this is wild, you know. Don't get me wrong, as a new fan, I'm loving all the new music, but I feel guilty for that at the same time, like, because I know how much these groups are just constantly in the grinder, you know. I would love to see, I don't know whether it's just because I'm used to the kind of Western release schedules of artists, but I would love to see groups like BTS, you know, go to a more traditional album thing, you know, once every like couple of years or something, but you're getting a full album, full concept, big touring schedule. Let them have time to really grow as artists in between those releases, you know, not get kind of blurred and within like this album and then another album, and you know, it's a lot. But I mean, either way, whatever works for them, I just want them to be happy, you know, so that the longevity of groups like BTS continue. But it is an interesting thought. What do you guys think?
I honestly find everyone's response to BTS's hiatus kind of interesting and funny. One Direction left such a big trauma in fandoms and pop culture that BTS cannot even say the word hiatus without everyone freaking out. The first time they talk about the hiatus, many translators said that it was actually a mistranslation, and the word they said was actually rest. Then Jungkook had to go live to explain that they were not going on a hiatus, and then their label clarified that it was a rest from group activities. But I think it doesn't matter what you want to call it. A group's hiatus is a rest from group activities.
Yeah, she's
but BTS
right.
had to use another word because One Direction lied and changed the meaning of hiatus. A real hiatus.
Yeah, I mean, One Direction are the only group that people can even compare because it's the only thing that they know that feels like that, but it's still different.
Solo projects are still considered BTS projects, but the One Direction solo projects are not part of One Direction. When the BTS members are performing solo, they call their fans ARMY.
That's going to be the biggest part, right?
ARMY.
But when the One Direction members perform solo, they don't call their fans Directioners. So stop saying that's what One Direction said when it comes to BTS's rest, because their situations are completely different. BTS's rest is inevitable, and if there's something BTS has always done, it's keep their promises. So support BTS's solo projects in this new BTS chapter, and let's welcome them as a group again in 2025.
And also, it's not even resting. They're out working their asses off still, you know? So guys, let me know, what were your thoughts watching this? You know, I think this was a fantastically put together project, video essay, Veracity magazine. Hats off to you. You've absolutely smashed it. I love the insight. And as someone that is new, you know, baby army, I would say, I love kind of, you know, in this case, it is kind of what I felt anyway, but it's always nice to be educated a little bit more and to also kind of be reassured in certain things as well, because, you know, I'm still new to the world of K-pop, where it's not just BTS and all the other groups that I like. like, so the culture is different. So videos like this, I think, are really helpful for educating not just fans of ARMY, because most of them know, but it's new for new people like me. I think these videos are absolutely the best for. So we've got 2025 and onwards to look forward to. I mean, the boys have already started coming back slowly, so this has been amazing. Now, like I said earlier on in the video, if you want to see all of my reactions weeks before they hit YouTube, completely in full and uncut, I do have a Patreon link that is down in the description below. You're going to see all the live performances, full album reactions, K-dramas, variety content, and more. The link to that is down below. But guys, I'll see you in the next one. Peace.